So welcome back. We're throwing this back to the old days of the self-storage lab. Just the three of us today. A lot of things have been.
Do they call this a classic? Do we have enough episodes to say like this is a classic?
You know what's funny? My brother sent me a meme earlier that like Pandora and all that, classifying Blink 185 or 180. Wow. Edit that. Classifying
Timu Blink 182.
Yeah. Classifying Blink 182 to be an oldie now.
Oh no, we were
Which is
old.
kind of crazy. How does that feel, Kyle?
It doesn't feel good at all. Like when kids were starting to discover Radiohead, like, oh, this is something new and interesting. I was like, oh no.
I know. It's kind of like that stuff, like being brought back. It's like, guys,
What is old is new again.
Let's start off. I was reading an article by the Economist. It's just kind of like it feels like we're in a funny moment in our AI timeline. So the Economist was reporting 42% of firms have abandoned most of their GenAI pilot projects. So that's, according to them, up around 17% from last year. So that early excitement is, turning into, frustration at actually figuring out how to make that project or AI productive. There's examples too of like the CEO of Klarna admitting that he went too far in cutting customer service staff in favor of AI. So now they're rehiring and restructuring that team. And so it's just interesting that we're kind of going into like what they call the trough of disillusionment. And it's funny because I touched on this at the Mid-Atlantic show a few weeks back during my talk, where they were still seeing companies struggling with the typical things that go into like data science, and I'll let you geek out there, Mason. But data is still being siloed. Figuring out how to get legacy systems and integrating them, or making sure that the infrastructure is there for these newer systems to be implemented. And just in general, like there's fear around these large language models also making mistakes that could hurt their brand. The list goes on. And on the other end, right, we have this data coming out, but then on the other end, we have, OpenAI reporting that they have over, 800 million people using ChatGPT a week. While businesses are still trying to figure out how to actually plug it in. And then we have the Microsofts and Googles and whatnot just spending millions and millions just doubling down on it. So, I'm curious.
It's interesting. I mean, I haven't gone back and listened to like our first ChatGPT or our first couple ChatGPT like podcasts that we did, I don't know, 23, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe even early 24 or something. But I would imagine like probably a lot of the things that we said then are probably still true, right? Like this is like super cool, right? And as a person that's been working in, conversational AI for going on 10 plus years now, the thing that I've kind of leaned back on is like, as much has changed, there's still like most of it hasn't changed, right? So what is old is new again, right? And to kind of, piggyback on your Economist paper, right? I was reading a study by IBM, who, IBM and kind of its newest version of who they are is really a consulting service firm, right? They have their own core technology, but they're going out and like selling to enterprise businesses and consulting and building, bespoke technology for them. And what's interesting is like 25%, what they report is 25% of AI projects like don't show a return on investment today, right? And so just to kind of back up that like we're in this like really interesting period of time where the hype cycle is huge, right? But like when it comes to rubber hits the road, how does an enterprise business deploy this? We're still not there yet, right? The things that worked yesterday are still the things that we have to rely on today. And just like you talked in Mid Atlantic, like I was out in Napa giving a presentation about the difference between a deterministic model and non-deterministic models, and like what their strengths and weaknesses are, and we can like geek out about that. But and yes, the idea is like this is the worst it'll ever be. I think we said that probably again in that very first podcast that we did, right? Like this is the worst it's ever going to be. But the interesting thing to me here, and I'm pretty sure that we said this too, is like not much has changed from a technology breakthrough perspective, right? The T in ChatGPT is transformers, right? And transformers were invented by Google in 2017, right? So we've had these for 8 years. Yes, ChatGPT came on the scene in 22, 23. But the biggest thing that changed is like the size of the models and the compute power that we're pushing these data through, right? And I think every successive version of either Claude, ChatGPT, whatever model you want to, Meta's Llama, the big change is that they're just adding more data to it. The tech isn't changing, and you know, I, I think I think there's two schools of thought, right? Right. One school of thought is that we're going to have just this massive breakthrough at some point in time by doing the same thing at larger scales. And the other school of thought is that like we need to like have an Einstein mathematical breakthrough to change it. And you talk about the money that Apple, Google, Amazon, OpenAI, all the big tech companies today, it is wild. I mean, there's a whole nother touch point of like OpenAI is now part of that discussion in general. But I think the other side of that is that like they're spending money on research, right? Like a lot of money on research to try to find something new, right? To try to figure out what the next thing is. Is Transformers going to be the thing that gets us there? Is it something else? The last
They're also spending that money in like to research or funding other companies that kind of like they can then like under their own umbrella that they'll eventually acquire, or just to see if like it actually hits.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we're going to give you, $10 million, 10-person, data science team that is going out and doing research on stuff and doing something interesting to see if it, actually pays off. The other side of that is like, to your point, like, I mean, we do it all the time, right? Like, there's really not a task that I do on a day-to-day basis that doesn't involve AI, right? Every meeting is recorded and summarized by AI. Like, if I need to figure out how to, when we're thinking about new marketing campaigns, or we're doing things for trade shows, we're looking at using ChatGPT or Claude to help us in that workflow, right? But those are all agent assist style stuff. The idea that we're going to get into is what's agentic, what's an MCP, et cetera, like all these different terms that are being thrown around right now. Like, all of them are just like hype cycle still right now. Like we are, maybe the first pitch has been thrown in a baseball game, since we're like in the middle of baseball season. I'll use that analogy. Like maybe the first pitch has been thrown, but like if it has, it's still the top of the first. Like we haven't even got to like the home team getting to bat yet. Like it's still so early in the game. So I'm excited to dig in and kind of talk about some of the things that have been talked about in the news cycle recently, some of the really cool stuff that is coming out and useful, and hopefully break that down and go like, how does this actually apply to operators today in the self-storage industry too?
Yeah. Because I mean, again, just to finish that thought, like they're still very powerful tools. I think a lot of these companies just, they're still trying to figure out, right, what to do with them outside of like some of the use cases right now. It's like, this is so dumb, but like having a really nice car in a city with no roads type deal. It's like, I think the question now, it's like, who's building the roads, who's building like the other infrastructure needed to actually make it more useful. So I don't really think it's like a big sci-fi problem or issue. It's more of really a engineering IT one, right?
So I also want to point out too, like, we have started to use this term AI for everything, right?
Mhm.
And that's fine, I guess, like if that's what we want to do. But like most of the things that we're talking about is machine learning, right? And machine learning is super powerful. It has crazy use cases. Every single one of us that have an iPhone or an Android in our pocket, interact with machine learning in so many different ways every single day. And so I think a lot of the new hype cycles really around this like Gen AI, GPT style stuff. We see the really cool videos that are coming out that are completely AI, created. Um, I think they're really amazing creative tools right this second, and that's kind of where it is at this point in time. You've got to use that creative tool with a mix of like deterministic probability, machine learning, linear regression models that like do task, right? And so anyways, that's just a kind of a start us off around the terminology. Like maybe we can break down like most of the things that we're going to talk about today are bucketed under the Gen AI terms because of
Yeah.
transformer technology, but everybody's
Even
just using the term AI to describe everything under the sun today.
yeah, let's break it down. I would be curious to get y'all's thoughts and even like Kyle, like on the product and design and all that too. Like, because what like we're seeing companies now, right, over the last few years. I feel like you know AI powered or like AI native and agents now, and I'm sure there's others that y'all are going to mention, but I feel like the AI powered one was like a very like 2022 2023 type buzzword, and we've kind of seen things now start shifting. um
Yeah, now it's like agentic, like AI powered, or like almost like replace your humans, or like be a human, or be more than just AI powered. Like it is an AI, like actual being kind of thing,
yeah,
which is kind of
yeah.
wild.
Let's start with like that one, like AI powered. Then, like, what do you like? How do you guys like describe that versus like what we're seeing now?
I mean, to be clear, I don't think that much has changed in what like actual the feature set is, right? I think what has changed is consumer expectation is that
Mm,
they expect it to be AI and not AI powered, right? I think that's what it is, right? It's like, hey, if you're um Google and you're thinking about Gmail, like Gmail technically is AI powered, right? It's got these things that are reading your emails, helping you respond to your emails, summarizing your emails, prioritizing which emails go in which inbox, tagging the emails. Like all of these are different AI features. They're all AI powered. But at the end of the day, like Google's just going to brand that as Gemini, right? Today, like AI, it is AI, right? Like regardless of that, there's the I don't know, 6 or 7 features that I just described, or probably 15 to 30 different machine learning models, and none of them are, generative AI. I mean, some of them are generative AI, the ones that are helping you rewrite or draft up an email, but like some of them are not. So it's just an interesting.
is it like
Uh,
a thermostat and now like upgrading to a smart thermostat? So it's like you're saying like it's, I guess, like if we were to consider like the AI powered is more like an add-on feature to improve like the product,
Again,
right?
I go back to like I think it's just the consumer expectation is that these products you're if you're building a product today that doesn't have AI features baked into it, then it's not acceptable,
Yeah.
right? And so something that's AI powered is not a differentiator because everything should have some type of a
Hmm.
sprinkle of AI in it today. Again, and we're using that term so generically for all the things automation that like
Yeah. Yeah.
that like it's an
That's
expectation that
exactly
there's
what. Yeah. Yeah. So how about like we go like the AI native? I'm seeing more and more now AI native or even like AI first, right? Where I think it's suggesting that uh like the product or company or whatnot is actually built from the ground up around AI or concept of like some form of machine learning. It's like very central to it.
I mean, to me, again, AI native. Well, I think of that as a term first and foremost as describing somebody that an actual individual, human, right? Um, that and so, like, let's talk about that first, right? This is a person that is very comfortable with it, and I don't know that truly we have, the next generation of, people that are 18 years old right now, 15 to 18 are really the AI native generation for the most part, right? Like they just
That's
don't
so
know.
wild.
They just don't really know. They're not going to know a world where this like isn't a thing. This is how they went to school. This is how they got their degree. It's going to be a study buddy with them through college, et cetera, right? And so like if we take it back to like this, hey, this is somebody that's really comfortable. They immediately go to ChatGPT or Claude versus going to the Google search bar. Like this is an AI native individual. And so if we apply that to like businesses, right, I think it's foundationally when you're building the tech from a perspective that, AI is going to be a core component of how you drive this tech, right? And so, when you're thinking about the interface layer needs to be able to adapt to machine learning model output versus just like specific functions that have 2 to 3 different outputs, right? Maybe it's generating something on its own, right? I think this is native, right? The core concept that models change and the industry is going to change over the course of the next, I mean, for the rest of our lives, I think is also AI native. You're just constantly saying that this is going to be a core component of what we're doing, and we need to think about it from a foundational tech perspective.
All right, here's my take on it. The AI powered, AI native, agentic AI, I think it's very much like a marketing thing, right? And like AI powered, I think it started that way because companies had products or tools or whatever, right, that already existed. And then ChatGPT came out, or OpenAI had APIs, and they can hit something, LLM or something, and do a generative something. So they would basically just kind of bolt on. Here's an LLM. I'm going to bolt that onto my existing product. That's AI powered, right? Then, and I think this kind of aligns with the life cycle of like this stuff coming out, right? And going back to the trough of disillusionment too. Like, hey, there's a super hype. It's really cool. We start building with it. We start playing with it. We decide, oh, this isn't actually quite there yet. We have that trough, and then we're going to see what happens in the future, right? So the AI powered thing came out. It was a bolt on. AI native, I think people are finally starting, instead of like starting from I have a product that I'm bolting on AI, they're starting from with the AI and then building products and tools like on like with that in mind. Like we start with the AI, then what can we do with it? And I think we're now getting into that's life cycle of like, okay, the agentic thing, like we have all this stuff at our disposal. Like, what are we going to do from there? Like, make it a truly, like, not just AI powered thing, not just like a little bit of AI, like, and to kind of like, Mason, your point of like a lot of this has been kind of a subset of machine learning, right? Like, there's a lot of different stuff under the AI umbrella. Like, let's use pieces of all of that stuff to like make this happen.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, and it excites me to hear the way you describe it because, like, in my head, I was like, day zero of Swivl, we've had this like idea of this machine learning layer or this AI layer that had multiple models in it, and like, in I think February of 23, you correct me if I'm wrong, like we introduced our stacked lobe system, right? And that really has enabled us to be everything that we are today, right? Today we run 32 different machine learning models, or I'm using that term a little bit less lightly than AI. We're running 32 AI models. There's a whole bunch of different types of models in that 32. Some of them are super tiny, they're purpose built. Some of them are more horizontal and trying to understand what's happening. Some of them are very specific at translation task or whatever it is. And when you think about agentic, right, like ultimately, I think the idea is that one, it's completing a task, right? And in order to complete a task, you need to have multiple systems running at the same time. And then that gets us into this like, okay, well, our system might be quote unquote agentic because it's completing task for people. Again, I think these terms are very marketing focused, and we should use them loosely. But the idea is that we're actually completing a task, and then you go, okay, well, now you have our agentic platform, and you're going, okay, well, there's another platform that has agents that are doing stuff, and that brings us into this like multi-agent collaboration platforms,
The
right?
multiverse.
MCPs, right? Exactly. How many different Spider-Mans exist today?
Awesome.
Yeah,
even like I was watching some clips from Google and Microsoft. I mean, both of them they're preaching AI as this like a platform shift, like this agentic web, right? Kind of, I feel like to y'all's point of like marketing, like they're always like kind of pushing it a little bit further. I think also too, just to get everyone, just rally everyone. But it is
let's be
interesting, right?
it's about
Agentic
dollar.
web.
It's about dollars.
Oh,
It's about
100%.
dollars.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
But the agentic web, right? It's like, is that like a, I don't know, is that like a web 3.0, but for like AI agents? Like now we're talking about shifting what products, social media or like websites that were created for humans. And now, like, do we need to start thinking about products that cater to these agents? Definitely some implications there as to like how people browse or get their information.
I think it's
Are we
still too
shifting to
early.
more like transactional stuff? I
It's
don't know.
still too early,
Yeah,
right? Like all agents talking to agents is such a that's not actually happening today. It's like really not. Like it just is not being done today. So
a
like
lot of
anybody that,
workflows.
huh?
A lot of workflows.
Yeah, it's code. It's old traditional function calling and stuff. I think the idea of an MCP is like, again, it's branding, right? Hey, this is no longer um, global warming; it's now climate change, right? Like it's the same thing for with a new term. It's an API. It's some type of an interface layer from one system to communicate to another system. And today there's no set protocol for that layer, and so it's so experimental right now. Like again, we're in the top of the first. I to use that like the batter 2 is up, maybe batter 2 is up. Like we haven't even gotten through the lineup just yet. It's like so early in the game. um our pitcher's
And
just
no one has
getting
hit it
warm.
even close out of the park yet.
We've
So,
bunted.
yeah.
I mean, you know what? Actually, I'll give. Let's not take away from like OpenAI's like 100 million people using ChatGPT every day or whatever it is. Like that's a pretty phenomenal thing. But like, all right, so the first pitch swing was like a really nice stand up double, and like we've still got that guy stranded on second base right now.
And there have been some fouls. There have been some strikeouts. Like the AI pin thing from.
I'm just so excited that Kyle's using sports ball terminology
Look,
for this
man,
analogy,
and,
man.
and of all the sports, like baseball is
Baseball.
not my thing. So I'm really trying over here.
It's awesome.
So how can we get like just to give more granular or examples, like we play with Operator.
I use it. I still use it. I try to use it at least. I try to use it.
There's a couple other things, but like I think just to sum up, right? I think what we have today is just to restate. I think Mason, what you were saying earlier, it's something that can go out and like search, use a browser essentially, actually take action. One of the biggest things, it's still like there's still hard stops if you have to like do a captcha or log in or something, like you still have to take over. But I think to put it back, like if you're like, hey, find me the best storage deal in Austin, Texas, and reserve it for me, I think I could probably search it, compare,
No,
fill out a form. I mean, you have to supervise it. You have to, like, you can.
I don't. No, it doesn't work. It's bullshit. It's all like I've tried this. Like literally in the last like 14 days, I've done this. It's
Let's
like,
get into it.
I mean, it's wild, right? Like you basically what's happening with a operator, right? Is you give it a prompt, and like OpenAI has servers somewhere that are running a Chrome browser,
Mm-hmm.
and so it starts to open up tabs and search the internet, and like the first, I don't know, 15 minutes to an hour is like, holy crap, this thing's like clicking around on a website and doing things, and you're just like watching it, and it's like really cool. Again, to go back to a point that like we probably made, in our some of our early episodes around AI, is like it's a really cool parlor trick. I've shown people it, but then like it just falls flat, like completely flat. So like the promise is not there, it's just not doing it. And Rabbit's in that same house. All these companies are in there. They're all trying to do something, but it's the dream. It's a dream, right? And that's awesome that they're selling the dream. But like, when you're a technologist and you're actually you're not just doing research, you're trying to like build product for customers that is going to interact with customers. Something that's an operator style thing, or like the dream is not the thing that actually has to sell.
That's interesting too. Like, I'm curious, like from your perspective, I think the dream that's being sold is like for the consumer, right? Using this type of agent to just to continue down that path. Like, I don't want to shop for storage myself. I'm just going to have it do it. You know, maybe we'll get to there. I don't, eventually. But I wonder like how this system, on the flip side, could work for an operator, right? Like, what's the use case there for like the actual business? You guys have any
Yeah.
ideas there?
I mean, I will touch on the consumer thing. I mean, I think it makes sense, right? Like the big tech companies are consumer companies for the most part, right? Obviously, all of them, not all of them. Um, Apple mostly excluded from that, but Google and Amazon, OpenAI, they probably make most of their revenue from back end developer tools and whatnot. I don't think much has changed from like how does this like impact the self storage operator, right? Like it's really cool. Like we've used it to try to do research, um, and that's not OpenAI's operator tool. I think that falls flat on its face. Like 99% of the time that I've tried to use it to do something, it can't even order a Papa John's pizza if I tell it exactly what type of pizza I want, right? Like it just can't. Um, and but like from like a deep research and the connections, like it's freaking awesome. Like, are you kidding me?
Oh
Like
yeah.
I use deep research for everything, even if I don't need to use deep research for it. I'm like, let's just get the book report on this. Like, I
Yeah.
don't remember. Like the other day, we were talking about office chairs, and I'm like, gotcha, guys. Give me a second. Give me 25 minutes. I'm gonna have ChatGPT go out and cite 52 sources around what office chairs are the best in a certain price range, etc. Um, but and I think it's really good for all that. Like, use it for researching business models. Use it for researching, how to communicate to customers, and then like all the connectors that OpenAI has introduced is freaking phenomenal. I mean, Rodolfo, you were just playing with this the other day around the
Oh, I
connection
stayed up till
into HubSpot.
1:30 a.m. Oh yeah. Look,
Wait,
playing
for,
with
for
that.
for those that don't know, what's a connector? How's it work?
Really, a connector is a new feature by OpenAI, that they've added, where you can literally integrate, and essentially have your ChatGPT instance tap into data somewhere else. So another app.
Oh, is that kind of like a Zapier or something? Like I connect it to my Gmail and I connect it to this other thing.
Sort of, in a way. It's not like you can. Well, I guess it's not like you're creating a workflow and kind of like what data sources, but it is. It's just able to pull up. It's like, for example, I was connecting it to HubSpot. I've been looking into other things. I thought it was like one thing at a time, but you can actually like my idea was like, hey, I want to run a. By the way, you have to like for some of these, you have to connect it to. So you have to do a deep research and then use the connector to something like HubSpot. Other times, there's like you can use the connector by itself. But for this example, I was like, hey, I want to run an analysis for everything to current date, around like that being upgrades and churn and just give me some behavior around like some of the pipeline, and it's able to look at account detail, contact details, deal details, analytics, and actually come up with a comprehensive report, which is really dope. The thing that I figured out this morning is that you can actually uh, turn on more connectors. So in that deep research, you say HubSpot, Google Calendar, Teams. They don't have Slack yet, but and then it will actually go into all those other tools and actually help build that report, a little bit more comprehensive report as well. So I think there's a lot of use cases. I haven't played with some of the other things. They're even allowing you to create your own or build your own connectors. But I'm really excited for this.
Yeah, it's super cool. I'm not going to nerd out too much. I mean, it's a just using different data sources as the knowledge graphs for responding to stuff. But my favorite one is my favorite app, the app that I use the most frequently is Apple Notes, and like the Mac ChatGPT app. Like if you have Apple Notes up and you're typing in an Apple Note and you go over to the ChatGPT app, it'll suggest it as a connector immediately. And like you can sit there and add it to the prompt and just like ask questions, and it'll like literally pull information from that Apple Note.
That's
which
sick.
is it's
That's
so
cool.
cool, man. Like they've just done a really good job with the Mac app. It's my favorite.
Have you been using that a lot?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, the use case is like not necessarily. This is that AI native question. I'm not AI native yet, or in some cases, and this is like I'm so stuck in an old Apple Notes like habit that like my first instinct is not to go and like into ChatGPT to use Apple Notes, right? And so I normally forget about it when I'm like doing something in Apple Notes, and then like I'll be in Apple Notes and switch over to ChatGPT, and it'll pop up with a note that has no context to what I'm like actually trying, why I opened ChatGPT at that point in time. And so I have used it because I wanted to play around with it, but still like when I think of search, or I think of like information gathering, or like we've said this since day zero, solving the whiteboard problem of like, hey, I've got a blank whiteboard and I'm trying to figure out like a first step here. Like I am instantly going to ChatGPT for that these days. But for like things that I do in Apple Notes, it's still like my instinct is to go into Apple Notes and just get that like 2 sentence thought down. And I'm sometimes going back to it, but I'm not necessarily going back to it from a ChatGPT perspective, at least not today.
So let's talk a little bit about the MCP and Model Context Protocol. I think this is like to add to connectors and all that. I think it's I would say a pretty big feature and introduction. I don't think it's new or anything, but how they're now adding it to kind of like what Mason was alluding to be able easier way to be able to tap into other systems. It's kind of like, I guess the easiest way I could at least explain it is like a just an interface to let this AI agent or something like ChatGPT or not talk to any tool or service, right? It's kind of like HTTP, but for your web browser, but
Yeah.
for like AI and plugins, right?
Again, like I sound like a broken record, but like none of this is new, right? We're rebranding stuff, and so like the core of where an MCP comes from, is like commutative planning, classic AI. I mean, and that even in of itself, as all artificial intelligence says it all, like it's all inspired by the human brain and how we interact with each other, right? And so like the idea is that it's inspired by human teams and the cognitive modeling, and like the very core concept of this is that you're building very specific AI agents with a defined role and goal and like action space that it can take, and they're able to share and interact with other agents, right? And so if we talk about it like as a you know like as a team member, or a team, like you're building a team of like this multi-agent, like maybe you've got a product manager, and then you've got a developer, and you've got the chief financial officer, and like each one of these are agents that have a very defined goal and like thought process, and this team of agents is able to communicate and pass information between one another in order to go and accomplish like whatever the task is to go build the product and sell a service, right? But the AI agent that is tasked with coding the code is not tasked with building the business plan and building a pricing model, right? And then obviously you expand outside of that, and like we just talked about connectors. Well, now can our security cameras and security system agents that we built to monitor, whatever's happening in the building, can those agents communicate to our call center? Right. And the call center team now, or the call center agents that are over there, can make outbound phone calls and call the police and report, a broken thing. And like there's your 3 different agent teams. Right. And so the idea is that there's the orchestration that is happening, this logic that manages the agent communication, is set in stone, but everybody's got their defined task, right? Again, this is very much today an experimental role, but the ideas and concepts are not any different than an API. It's not any different than how we build human teams today. How classical AI models sometimes, again, I go back to the iPhone. I mean, if we look at our camera on an iPhone, there are, if we really want to be like specific, there are, in just the iPhone app, when you open up your camera and you hit that simple button and you get a picture, there are I don't know, I'm probably underestimating hundreds of AI algorithms and machine learning models that are passing information back and forth between each other, and they're acting as an agentic team, right? One is analyzing the lighting, the other one is analyzing the color, the other one's doing this other thing in it, and they're adding mask, and there's another one that's object detecting to pull it out and doing, like, that's not one AI, that's tons and tons of machine learning models that are have a very specific input output relationship with each other, and it's not that much different. The difference is our Photos app is controlled 100% by Apple, right? And so they can sit there, and same for Google and Samsung, right? They can sit there and build this very specific protocol, this input output system, the orchestration, the memory, and the context sharing that needs to go into building this MCP. The core concept of this MCP that we talk about as the dream that we're selling, right, is that there's this specific protocol where now HubSpot and OpenAI and Zendesk and my Mac operating system and our microphones and whatever other piece of technology all can just randomly talk to each other, right? Because they can go out and understand what they need to do, and they can make a determination of how to send information back and forth between each other.
My question like now goes into like just from a user, right, and like how it comes from like product, the education piece, like user education. We're talking a lot of this is like marketing and painting the picture, the vision, but is it? I guess how are companies supposed to think about education? Is it just a not really too much education, just kind of, hey, this is what you can do, and it's all about the actual product experience, having that stuff built in and making it so easy to use that people don't have to worry about the concept of how this all works and agentic AI and whatever it's going to become? Or do you think like companies need to?
When you've got a humanoid robot that is folding or doing your laundry and folding your clothes or hanging up your clothes, ain't nobody going to give a rat's ass about how it works. Just the fact that you said, "Hey, Sally Sue, I got dirty clothes and I need my black t-shirts. Like, when's my next load of black t-shirts going to come out?" And like they're hanging up. Like, you don't care, right? Like, there's hundreds of machine learning models that are going to go into doing that task, if not thousands. No one's going to care. We're just in this point right now where it's, we've got some really cool stuff that we've never seen. And, still today, right? I mean, it's been going on 2 years. Still today, when I go into ChatGPT and I ask it a question and I interact with it, man, the joy, the dopamines that are happening in my brain are still happening. And so it's really freaking cool that that's happening. And like, again, parlor trick. I like to bring out my phone and open up the ChatGPT app, put it in voice mode. During the holidays, I put it into Santa Claus mode, so it sounded like Santa and ho ho ho'd me. And like, you're just sitting there. I was with the buddy the other day. we were sitting there talking to ChatGPT about octopuses, right? Like, or octopi, or whatever the plural of it is, because like somebody brought up something about hearts, and like it, the train, conversation went to octopus, and I was like, dude, like let's talk to ChatGPT about it. And like that interaction is so much freaking fun. Like, but at the end of the day, who gives a rat's how it actually works under the hood once it actually is doing the thing? That's kind of the point that I was making.
It is octopi.
Is it octopi? Thank you.
What's funny is, as cool and powerful as ChatGPT is, like if you ask it a simple thing like that, it might get it wrong. Chances are high.
Well, so. I this is where they have world knowledge, but they can't, like ChatGPT can't. This is where connectors are cool, right? And hopefully, OpenAI gets there, or like, Apple comes in and actually, let's not use Apple as an example in this instance. Let's say Google.
That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, hopefully Google comes in and does this, but like when you ask ChatGPT, if you said, "Hey, set a timer, for me for 15 minutes," like. It can't do that. Like that simple task of setting a timer, it can't do. You'd be better off like spending, again, if you only needed a 15-minute timer, you'd waste your time. But like you would have to go in and like be like, "Hey, ChatGPT, let's build a timer app." Okay, like you have to go back and forth with like getting the timer app to work, and then like hit the start button for a timer, and now you're an hour into vibe coding a timer app. When you could have just gone over to your old school, egg timer that sits on the counter of your kitchen and turned the dial to 15 minutes and let it go. For the record, I do use Siri for that. So like I don't have an egg timer, but I think this, like, to like really quickly, kind of wrap up this, how we started the diatribe of the trough of disillusionment, or whatever the term was. I think, I really have been trying to not nerd out so much, but like educate around this like idea of utilizing multiple models to do task, right? Again, our system utilizes a combination of deterministic models and non-deterministic models. And like I know we're at least half an hour into this, so like I'm not going to try to sit here and like break down all of these things, verbatim into everything, but like a deterministic model is really great for tasks that require consistency, availability, um, accountability, right? So, like, if you need to have this monitored, or you're going to need to, say, uh, showcase something for an audit later on, deterministic models are really, really useful today, right? So, payment handling, or even account balance statements, right? Like, hey, how much do you owe? Like, a deterministic model is the right model for that job today, right? Because I want to be able to audit it. I want to be able to understand what it's going to do, etc. Same thing for like, pricing and availability, any regulatory things. Like if we go to self-storage specifically, I mean, self-storage is a regulated industry. Different states have different regulations. Like a deterministic model is something that you want to be able to audit and predict and understand what the outputs are going to be, because it's regulated. You can't get this wrong, right? A non-deterministic model is going to be really great at creative tasks, writing reviews or review responses, coming up with a way to make something more conversational and human like, right? These things are awesome at that. Now, GPT models do combine a little bit of both of those. You've got this thing called temperature control and system prompting that you can add in there to make it a little bit more deterministic and less creative. Like you can sit there and, turn that knob. And I think at the end of the day, the thing that like is really the solution is this combination of both. Like you don't need to choose one or the other, right? The answer is not a ChatGPT wrapper or an OpenAI, just hitting the OpenAI system with a meta prompt. Like that is not the answer today. For let me clarify, for dealing with like things that are business tasks that involve a end customer specifically, or some type of a business task that needs to be audited and predictable, et cetera, right? Like billing and statement creation, etc. Like you wouldn't want a non-deterministic model to like just pull from your FMS and create an invoice for this customer, right? Like you don't want creativity in that process. Like you want to automate it. Maybe there's a machine learning model that's doing it, and maybe it's just an automated workflow. Like, but a non-deterministic model is going to come out with a dinosaur, painted on the side of it, and a smiley face in the right corner, and it's going to look really pretty and cool, but like, did it do the task, and is that the thing that we need for this specific thing? It is really, really the question, right? And so, I do think that there's this balance between the two, and it's really hard to do this correctly, right? Again, it's a whole. I'd need like 4 to 5 hours, but like, it's the reason that Apple and Amazon, Apple being the most profitable business on the face of this planet, or that the world's ever seen for the most part, outside of maybe some oil companies in Saudi Arabia, is having a really hard time doing it. Now, yes, they might not be great at it just internally. It might be a little bit against Apple's DNA, but I don't believe that. I think the problem is just really freaking hard, right? And both Apple and Amazon have the 2 largest install base of intelligent assistants in the world, right? People every single day talk to their Amazon Alexa to play music and to set kitchen timers, and every day people are asking Siri for directions or to send messages to people, etc. Like, it's really hard to mix those two things. And so like having the right architecture, if we go back to this AI native from a product and a product or company perspective, like having the right architecture from the foundation is something that is like really difficult to do, and ultimately that foundation and architecture should be using both deterministic and non-deterministic models collaborating together. And in our system, just as an example, we might use a deterministic model in order to generate or to figure out what somebody's the appropriate unit for somebody is. But we might use a non-deterministic model to show empathy about your mother breaking her ankle, and therefore that's why we're recommending a drive-up unit, right? Hey, drive-up units are really great for your mother. Like, it's going to be easily accessible so that they can move stuff in and out of it without having to go up to escalators or elevators or use dollies. All that's a non-deterministic thing. But the fact that that drive up 10 by 10 is $150 a month, that's a not a deterministic model, because I want every single time that I say that I have a 10 by 10 drive up unit to be the right price, right? I'm not going to use that non-deterministic model to like go and say, oh, you know what? I'm so sorry, Sally. I don't know why Sally Sue's my chosen name today, but like, I'm so sorry, Sally Sue. I know that your mom broke her ankle. I'm going to give you a 100% discount on the first 3 months. Like, you just can't have that happen. And we have seen in the real world where airline companies have tried to do this. Somebody has gotten it to, literally sell the entire plane full of seats for free. I think also, like, the companies that would benefit the most from like having this dream that everybody is selling of agentic agents, right, is banks, airlines, insurance companies. Like, if these things were easy and actually ready for the real world today across all of customer support and service, like, those companies would have implemented them, a year ago. Like, they've got the money, they've got they already have the relationships with all these consulting companies that go out and build these products for them. They're going to call up IBM, Apple, Amazon. They're going to call up whoever they need to go and do it. And the realization is like, again, there's a little bit of a trough of illusionment today, like where the rubber hits the road in actually interacting with business task. There's still a lot of work to do here. It's really freaking exciting. It's a fun freaking time. I mean, every day there's something new comes out that we get to play with. You're playing with connectors last night for HubSpot, and like, they also announced a connector to our PM tool. And I'm like, oh man, like, how do we make our product management, system better? It's like, man, that's so much fun and exciting. And like, there's no better time to be experimenting and screwing around with these things. it's just like also like ground that in like real world. What can we actually go and accomplish today is important too.
They're all very good points. I think I just had to say it. Sally Sue must be a Southern thing. I don't know.
Probably.
But
Rodolfo, I think you don't get more Southern than anybody. Like, you're the most Southern.
well,
from like an actual longitude latitude perspective.
Exactly. Like Puerto Rico, I don't think you get any more Southern.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
I'm just messing.
No, says but says the boy from Texas, and the guy from Georgia, right?
Yeah.
But I think no, this is good. So I think overall, right, summing it up, we're not fully there yet, but there's a lot of stuff happening. I need to keep an eye out. I think even, to the whole point of the trough of disillusionment and whatnot, I think the trajectory is I don't know to say clear, but it's getting easier to see where it's all going. I think it's normal, specifically whenever we're talking about tech adoption. I think once we reach this peak, we're going to start seeing like how expectations meet reality, and maybe we're going to go into this other phase of starting to use and kind of seeing these actual systems and tools be used a little bit better and actually have some more real use cases for it. So I'm excited for that part of the adoption cycle. And I think we're also in the middle of it, and we're doing some really, really cool stuff in it. And I'm excited to, how this is all going to be applying back to our industries, self-storage, and above and beyond.
Yeah. I mean, if you made it to this point of my nerd, I'm pretty sure Rodolfo just put a microphone in front of me and was like, we're going to let Mason nerd out for a little bit. And, we're going to get a podcast episode out of it. But if you made it this far, like, the last half of this year for us is going to be really, really cool. We've got some, we've already started pushing out voice agents that can do collections. And, we've started working with agents to do consulting for new self-storage customers that have never used the product before, don't really understand it. Again, like pulling in this non-deterministic generative AI stuff where appropriate. We're really stoked around some of the future things that we have to announce in the coming months as well too. Where ultimately this stuff is a superpower, and that's how we think about it. Is like, hey, it's a superpower. It makes me a better entrepreneur, a better product manager, a better team member. Like, how do we infuse that into an AI native, AI powered, AI first product for self-storage operators to allow them to do more with less. Put in this stuff at your fingertips so that you get the best of all the worlds and can control it and manage it. It's also should be predictable and auditable, and you guys should be able to make it different from one of our customers to the next, which is really, really cool.
I think that's a wrap.
That's plenty of nerding out for today. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
If you made it this far, send us a note. We'll send you some swag.
All right, guys. Don't forget to like, share, comment, ask us questions. You can always find us at www.triswivl.com/podcast, Spotify, Apple, or really anywhere where you listen to podcasts.